blah, 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 blah. And the second question really is, what's the doctor telling you about the future? Then you'll know this. What happens if I ask somebody, well, I had this client, about 8 to 14 shotgun pellets in each eye. I mean, totally destroyed. And another one who had alcohol blocks, had glaucoma so badly that they just shot alcohol in their eyes to pickle them.
To pickle them?
Yeah, kill the nerves so they quit hurting. They don't come back from that. So, and both those people, when I interviewed them and asked them about this, about the future, they both say, well, the doctor is telling me that, all this might clear up and I could get some vision back. What that tells you is they're still, they're still denying things. And remember, denial is not a choice. It's a subconscious thing that your mind does to you.
For protection. Part of the grieving phase?
That's right, it is. It's part of adjusting, and it has nothing to do with them choosing it. If they're choosing to deny, then that's a lie. That's very uncommon. Almost always, the brain is telling you you're going to get better because you need to rest so you can get better, and you can't rest if you're facing the horror all the time in the beginning. So the brain protects us. Anyway, you now know if you're dealing with denial or not, and it's cool. So you find out a lot from these questions. And then the next one is important too, which is your very first immediate danger is the next area. And it primarily pertains only to people living alone, but it's not quite true. This is where you become the caseworker and not just the teacher. If you go into a home and you find out that somebody has no way of getting food, or they're eating something that's totally ridiculous and bad for them because they don't know how to fix it, or have no way to get the food, or can't afford it, or they can't, or you get there and they don't have any heating fuel, and the place is iced up, or you find out that there's absolutely no way to get any transportation. This person has no friends, no way to get to the doctor, no way to get help. Then you need to know about those things. So, the question's kind of like, really it relates to four things. It relates to food, medicine, not so much what kind are you taking, but are you taking it at the right time? What are you taking? Are you taking it at the right time? Can you tell which one kind of pill from the other pill? That kind of thing. So medicine, food, transportation, and heat. Those are kind of four biggies that you've got to deal with if the person's out in the countryside or somewhere else living alone with little or no support. And before you teach one bit, you've got to get those taken care of if there's a problem.
Is that would we take care of any interventions that need to be done at that time too?
Like
Say they need some kind of medical intervention.
Maybe if it's extremely critical, meaning by that you mean teach them something?
Exactly. Even say their meal, say it's a diabetic and they've still been monitoring their sugars, so they can do that, but their sugars are at 400 or whatever, they're just some ridiculous number and they need some kind of other assistance.
We're going to do a whole section here on referrals.
Okay.
And what you would do is immediately refer those people to the county health people or whoever they're working with.
Okay.
Home health care.
Right. Okay.
So you're going to learn this whole section on where to go for things like that.
I don't know if this is out of our scope, but what would you do if somebody, all they had was a wood stove to heat and they couldn't cut wood anymore?
I don't know off the top of my head, but find a way.
Okay.
Usually, though, in that kind of situation, what you are is a referral source.
Yeah.
And sometimes it isn't out of the realm of reality for you to begin to walk out the door and they say, if you leave, I'll kill myself. Well, since most of us don't know what to do in those kinds of situations, there's wonderful referral places. There's all sorts of crisis lines. And in this section we're going to do on referrals, you're going to learn about those and how to get a hold of them and what they do. And you'll relax a little bit about worrying about such a statement as that one. So you do have to determine this though, and so the first thing you have to do is, assuming that you walk in, a person is said to be alone in the case file, is to verify that's true. And if it is true, what would you do next?
Do you ask for some sort of contact person that they are related to or who they go to? I mean, if this is an older person and they say they live alone, you verify that they live alone. Can you at that point ask them, who do you contact if you
Yeah,
have
that's
a
one of your
concern?
assessments though, you see. So that's the second thing. You go in and you find out, okay, they really are alone. Do they have any kind of support at all? That's kind of what your second step is. And then you really do have to figure out, what are you doing for food? It's the same old thing, the two-step question. Are you dealing with food in any way? And if you are, can you tell me what you're doing? Same deal with these transportation. Are you getting to the doctor? Are you getting to the places you need to get to? And if you are, can you know what's going on? How you doing it? And if you find big gaps, then you got to then start making the referrals. And you always have to remember that other people do these things better than you do. They certainly deal with suicide better than I do, and they know more about transportation than I do. I know where to go for it though. And I know about soup kitchens, and I know about Meals on Wheels, and I know things like that, and that's what you have to learn. Actually, working in the field is a fantastic job, I think. It's so much more creative. You get to solve real problems. You get to be like a neighbor helping a neighbor. It's a cool job.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the explanation part. If I find the person have a poor English, is it okay if I switch to ask yes/no question to get information from him?
Switch to what?
To yes and no questions to.
Well, yeah,
But if he
you
can't
have.
like describe.
Of course, you have to do what you have to do to get the information. Yeah. Yeah, and you might run into people who are not very articulate,
Uh-huh.
and then you do have to switch over to more yes/no things, but not necessarily. It's more like leading things, but they end up being yes/no, I guess. It's more like, you ask a question about food, and they'll say, I do a little bit. And the next question is you try to get them to describe it.
Okay.
Well, and they can't describe it, so then what would you do?
Okay.
What would you do next? You'd start asking the basics. Can you use your microwave? Are you?
Okay.
What are you doing? What are you eating for breakfast? Any specific thing you have to do to lead them into answering the question you have, but it's not a common thing. But that's a great question. You're right. You'll run into people that won't be articulate enough to give you all this kind of info. How are we doing time-wise here?
Bad.
11:15.
Okay, I'll stop here, but, because right now, from here on, we walk right into all these areas. So you definitely need to look at this. You're gonna have to interview this standardized patient and turn in a report on it, this very form right here, by October 14th.
Does the ADA cover, like, say you get a client that doesn't speak
Yeah,
English,
that's
whatever,
when we go in.
you legally have to provide a translator when you go
He's gonna
to help them?
Yeah,
Okay,
especially if it's a state agency.
is that an ADA involved?
No, you didn't go
Or
see.
no, is that not in there?
No, in your case, it may be, but the law that really applies here is the Vocational Rehab Act,
Okay,
which requires
accommodations, okay.